What up, what up, what up? Got the Baitman, Kevin Baitman Baxter himself, the real deal.
Yeah, just fresh off the football field.
Fresh off the football field. A dad's got to do what a dad's got to do, man.
Yeah, man. I took a little skid, but we'll be all right. I want to make sure I was on the show, Mr. Bass. I want to thank you very much for inviting me onto your channel, onto your show. I've been watching your stuff for a while. I think you're very informative, pretty unbiased dude, and that's the kind of stuff I like. And we're all here in the fishing community to help each other.
Heck yeah, I totally agree. And I've been following you for a long, long time. I think I told you that back in the days when you were selling tackle in tackle stores, I thought your content was great. I loved watching your stuff. I still do. And I think you got a great channel, and I think a lot, like you said, a lot of us bait nerds, we're kind of equally aligned. We got a lot of
Yeah,
the same passions, and it's a ton of fun.
I had
So,
this idea, how they do like my son's into Pokemon cards, and I,
yeah,
I actually do some sports cards. I've been starting up that way. I can got something to do with him too. But they have these big like Comic Cons and like YouTube things where everyone content creators get together. I had the idea the other day. Wouldn't it be awesome if we just had they got iCast, and that's all for just uh, you know bait makers and manufacturers, wholesalers. What if we could put on an event that is just a tackle nut event? Just
yeah.
find enough guys, rent out an expo center, small convention center, or whatnot, and say, hey, bring your Balsa baits, bring your JDM. Let's all get together. Just a who's who swap meet, fishing tackle. I think it'd be awesome. I think you get a really good turnout.
I think you would too. That would be a blast. That would be really, really fun. So I know you are a bait nerd, especially when it comes to crankbaits. So that's what we're going to talk about, some crankbait stuff tonight.
Sure.
We're going to talk about a little top water. We're going to talk about several things. A couple things I thought I would bring up. This is interesting. Uh, I did a little video this weekend on this bait right here. If you can see it,
Oh yeah, DT4.
DT4. And I couldn't believe all the comments I got about this back hook. I mean, people going nuts over that back hook. What is that back hook? Where'd you get that? How does that thing work? Why do you have that thing on there? And I was like, man, do people not know that Rapala used to put these back hooks on all kinds of lures?
The
Uh,
Sure set.
here's another. This is a flat sided.
Woo! Now that's one of my favorite baits right there. Don't be showing that off. I might have
Check
to send
that
you
thing
some
out.
PayPal for that one.
Look, they're on both. These hooks are on both
Hmm.
hangers. You know. And then here's another one of my favorites. These are hard to find.
Oh yeah, the
Clack and wrap.
Black and Rat. Very underrated
These
bait.
these suckers really catch fish, but I've just about lost all of them. Only got a couple left. But again, big old sure set hooks, and these hooks do work great. I guess they weren't very popular though, but I've never had a problem with them. I really
Well,
like them a lot.
uh, I personally am not a fan of those. And that bait you had up, the DT7 flat, one of my all-time favorite
Yeah, this
Balsa
one.
crankbaits, mid-depth diver, dude. I got a box behind me in this plethora, and it's full of them. But I take the sure sets off. I replace them with brown bends, and I caught a
I
lot of
don't like
fish
them
in
on
the
the.
corner of the mouth that
Yeah,
would end up coming off. There's some people that really like them. I take them off, but again, I don't want to
I
get
like them on the
into
back. I don't really like them on the front, but I like them on the back quite a bit actually.
right. But David Fritz liked them, and I'm going to tell you, he's a lot better crankbait fisherman than me. So who am
Yeah,
I to
Fritz
argue
Fritz
sometimes?
knows a thing or two about cranking, doesn't he? Another thing I thought I would tell you because it might come up tonight. These frogs, maybe you've seen these Stanford frogs that have come out lately.
Mm-hmm.
The Boom Boom Stanford frog. When I saw this frog, I was like, "Here's one right here. It's got this patch on here."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "What the? What the?" come on, what? They call this frog fur. Old Boom Boom himself, Fred Rumbanis, apparently designed this frog. Guys that fish this frog say it's really good. I've fished it some, and I have caught a few fish on this one. But they say this little Velcro patch is called the frog fur. And this thing, when a bass bites on this, it's going to grip more on that. Uh,
Correct.
well, I started just cracking up. I was talking this on one of my live streams and just busted out laughing. I couldn't help myself because to me, frog fur is a big time gimmick, major gimmick. Now, it might work great, but it's just perfect in my mind to have gimmick written all over it.
Right.
So all my followers now, whenever we see a gimmick lure, we call it frog fur.
I got you.
Yeah,
Well,
so
that
that's what
actually
I.
that kind of concept started in the early '80s. There's some other frogs, which I was over at my dad's house because he's got a few of those, and they would put those patches. And you're right. People believed, and the bait designers, that when a bass would eat that frog, that little fur would get caught in. Bass have teeth. They're
Yeah, they have
real
little.
fine.
Yeah, yeah,
It's almost like the outside of a
little rib.
starfish or something like that. And so that it would get wrapped up in there, so it would try to throw or spit the frog, and that fur, that rough
Yeah,
patch would catch. Does it work?
right.
I don't know. Now the frog itself, that boom boom frog, is a pretty decent frog, even without the patch. So
Yeah, that's what I've heard. It also has a little eye underneath, which is kind of a fun idea. Uh,
you get so many people. Hey, why you got all these crazy topwater colors? Why you got the eyes on the side? The fish is looking
yeah,
up.
the fish looks up. So if I say frog fur, or some of the guys on the comments mention frog fur, that's what they're talking about. Frog fur is the gimmick bait. So that's
Whew.
all.
Hey, here's a good lead-in question of what we were talking about right before the stream, Mr. Bass. John Smith asks, "What are some affordable squarebills that come through wood really well?"
Okay, this is perfect segue. Baitman and I were talking about this little TikTok I did over the weekend where I showed a crankbait that was hanging up in wood over and over and over and over, and driving me crazy. So I pulled it off and I tied on a balsa bait. No more problems. Great, absolutely no problems at all. And the point of that video wasn't to say, "Hey, this lure's bad" or "this lure's good." It was to say, know your baits and understand your conditions and make sure you're fishing the right lure for the right conditions. And
Correct. Yeah, so I watched that video on TikTok and I actually seen some of the responses, and I saw some people like they. I don't want to say bashing you, but they're kind of like questioning you, and which is
yeah,
fine. Not everyone. I
right,
don't expect everyone to know
right,
everything or whatnot, but
yeah,
the reason for that, and you did the right thing, is when you're shallow cranking, especially, every crankbait's different, and that's what I would like to tell a beginner that's watching this stream, is just because it's got a square bill don't mean they're all going to run the same. Just because uh, you know it's from the same manufacturer doesn't mean it's all going to run the same. But Balsa crankbait, and I've got a ton of them right above me. There's a lot more flotation. Like, here's a great example. This is a very affordable bait you can still find. This is a Rapala. This is a Balsa bait. You have the DT4. This is a DT Fat 3. So you got a fatter body. It's
mm-hmm,
Balsa. You're going to have a lot higher flotation rate. And you do have the square bill.
mm-hmm,
So this bait is actually going to deflect a lot better coming through trees, branches, laydowns than supposed to like a Crush 50X from 6 cents, RC 1.5.
mm-hmm.
Because when you bump and hit something, it's going to usually get real erratic and back up, and then it floats out of there. So a technique
Exactly.
I like, especially in the spring, in the fall, I do a lot of stump bumping with a bait similar to this. It could be uh, any other balsa bait. Is almost burn the balsa bait into the wood or stump, You just let it hit and count it 1, 2, 3, and let it. It just kind of swims itself out. But a lot of times these injected baits, they don't have the same amount of flotation, and when they deflect, a lot of times they like to run down the side of something, and so you will get hung up more. Now, if I'm fishing gravel, pea gravel, and or maybe over the tops of brush where I'm not really going into it, that's when I like a 50X, a 100X. It's Strike King, KVD 1525. Those baits don't seem to hang up as bad. Whereas, I'm not really wanting to get that crazy erratic action. I just want to bring it straight in, whatnot. So,
Exactly. In fact, there were several guys bashing. That always happens. There was also people saying that crankbait sucks. That's not true at all. Like you said, a certain bait works in certain conditions. The other silly thing one person said is you never throw a crankbait in the wood.
oh
And
man, it's the
I
best
was
place to
thinking,
throw them.
dude, you always throw a crankbait in the wood. And that's why somebody invented the square bill, so that it will deflect and bounce out of cover. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about a square bill. You can throw it in the junk.
Right. Now you talk to the East Tennessee guys. So here's a great example of a bait. So we're talking, we talked about old baits. Well, here's a new version of an old bait, and basically kind of like the OG Rapala Slim, but this is the Strike King Chick Maggot. Well, Andy Morgan, East Tennessee guy, you notice that the lip is round. It's
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
guys think flat side you got to have a square bill, but that round lip is actually not that good for throwing around wood and stuff. It's going to get hung up
Yeah.
a lot more. But where this little round lip really, really shines, all those lakes in East Tennessee, Douglas, Cherokee, Norris, lots of rock, lots of crevices. The square bill tends to get hung in that stuff. Whereas that little round lip, it makes that bait kind of flip up and go through there. The square bill hits, and a lot of times it slides if it doesn't back up. And they like that little round lip. So again, baits can look really, really similar, but you have maybe one or two small differences really change everything. And don't even get me started on the difference between a Lake Sand bill and something like this, the micarta. Get a lot of different action. Sometimes you get some hunt out of it. And sometimes it makes the wiggle a little bit different. Personally, I like the micarta bills. The circuit board bills.
Yeah,
I really like those.
I do as well. In fact, that balsa I was throwing after I put the other crankbait away had a circuit bill on it. This is one of my favorite round bill crankbaits. This is not a flat side.
Oh yeah, that's
this.
BDS.
Yeah,
BDS2.
Yeah, Lucky Craft BDS2. Man, I love this bait.
Yeah, so
and they're bringing it back.
Yeah, so it's got a crazy following. There's this guy that's won a lot of money bass fishing. His name's Brian Thrift.
Yeah, I've heard of that dude.
He's got a little Demiki bait that's very similar, but it's kind of a dirty secret on the FLW tour that his go-to was that BDS2, and he uses the 1. It's a very unique bait because it's not a true square bill, but it's not a round bill. That bait actually really shines, is not touching the bottom. A lot of guys love that crankbait for fishing just 2 or 3 foot underwater over the tops of grass. It's really, really good.
Yeah, in fact, I fished a tournament a couple of years ago. I think it was 2019 up at the St. Lawrence River. It was a BASS Open. I was a co-angler. Thrift fished that, and he was fishing a crankbait and a jerkbait over grass. I don't know if it was this one or not, but that's what we heard anyway. All right, we got the Baitman frozen here for a second. We'll see if we can bring it back. But there's so many nuances to square bills. And for some of you newbies, I know I've got several on my channel that aren't very experienced square bill fishermen. You got to play with your baits, test your baits out, fish with them to get to know their strengths and their weaknesses. And just because you're having problems in one area, like that little video where I was saying, I'm getting hung up in wood, doesn't mean the bait's bad. You just got to have it in the right spot. So he's probably having a little Wi-Fi issue. While we were talking ahead of time, he froze up once as well. So I'm sure he'll pop back on here, and we'll get him back going. Yeah, fishing the Southeast. Love those BDS crankbaits. And the two, they discontinued this one, the two, and they're bringing it back now. They have a limited color selection that you can now buy even on like Tackle Warehouse. So that's kind of cool. I'm seeing double. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, tomorrow night, while we're waiting for Baitman, tomorrow night, Steve and I are going to be talking about tournament bass fishing. Mostly our guest that we didn't announce is not going to be on, but our super duper amazing, incredible, you're not going to believe it, fisherman guest a week from Wednesday is going to be on. He has confirmed that he will be on the show, and we will announce that here in the next day or two. You are going to like that a lot. I will not tell you who it was, but I will tell you this. I have a crate full of lures, and when I do my spin to win game, you can sometimes win lures out of that crate. So that's the only hint I'll give you, and you can take it. You can take it from there. All right, he's back.
Dude, my internet went out.
Yeah, that's what I told him. Probably a little Wi-Fi problem there.
Yeah, thank you for covering for me there. I appreciate that.
No problem.
We'll get my chat refreshed or whatnot.
I tell you the whole Wi-Fi. Do you do Wi-Fi or you got a wired connection?
I'm on Wi-Fi here in the bait room. What I'm hoping to do is I wonder how I fire this back up on my stream.
It should still be there.
It's just no internet.
I'm still seeing comments. Like if you see the comments, if you see one that says paired, that's you.
Right.
So I'm still getting paired comments. So
I can't
hopefully
even see comments. I don't know what's going on here. It's all blank. Let me see if I can. I don't want to leave, but does your stuff say paired? Let me see if I can get back into my stream.
Yeah, Bobfish Nut just said I'm here. So literally.
Okay, I'll just have to look at the comments on my phone. I don't know why it's not showing up here.
Yeah, that's not cool.
I did have a new member join on my channel, by the way, and I appreciate that, Blake Hornsby. We'll figure out this stuff real quick. I got something else clicking up here. It's trying to tell me thank you about something. I don't want to.
I went ahead and got a hardwire connection, not because I was dropping out so much, but the picture is so much clearer. See how clear my picture is? That's because I went to that wired internet, and this is why I do it. So when I show a bait like this, you guys can see it.
Yeah. Let me see
Speaking of lures for that do interesting things, if you guys watch the guys over at on Frank Scalish's Thursday shows on Bass Talk Live, this is a bait he's been talking about, squarebill, that he fishes over grass, in the grass. And kind of like you were saying,
the old Norman Fat Boy.
The Norman Fat Boy, kind of like you were saying about the BDS. If you know the capabilities of a lure, you might never throw this in the grass because you might say to yourself, well, I don't throw squarebills in grass. That doesn't make any sense. But this one apparently works real well in grass. I've not fished it in grass.
All right, if my chat's behind a little bit, I'm setting my cell phone up here so I can see all this. So, all right, let's keep rolling. That's how I roll. I've always got connection issues, crazy stuff going on. My kids bugging me to death.
Yeah.
But we'll get through this.
Yeah, right on.
I'll tell you a squarebill I really, really like. And this is a really good one. They don't make them anymore. So
Hellabass says on your channel you are live.
I know you eBay hunters will be out in full force, but this is a Jackal Aska 70. And it
Ah,
is actually one of the better injected baits for throwing around cover. I found this one doesn't get hung up a whole lot. It's very buoyant, and actually when you put one in your hand, you'll notice, man, it feels a little bit lighter than the KVD 2.5 or bigger baits. It does have some bigger trebles on it, but again, it's got a micarta lip here,
yeah.
but it casts really well. And this is just this is a straight smoke show color in the fall. I think this one's
That
Tennessee
is
shad. Dude, you can fish this in Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky. You can go to Texas. You'll catch fish on this guy right here. So if you ever
a
get
great
bored,
color.
and hunting, you think I want a different square bill, dude, that Jackal Aska 70 and the 60 are really, really good. Now, Tackle Warehouse has some 50s, which is smaller. It's like basically a KVD, a little bit, it's kind of in between the 1.0 and 1.5. It's a really good finesse square bill.
What's that color called?
This one is called chartreuse shad. I'm sorry, chartreuse shad.
Yeah, that's a great looking color. Here's a question, and I'd like to talk about this because he's asking, has anyone used the Storm Arashi 3 or 5 foot cranks? And I'm telling you, I hate, well, I don't want to say hate. I have never caught a friggin' fish on the Arashis. Do you know anybody that has?
I know people who's caught them, but I think they only threw them because they were in the discount bin. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I do know some guys that really like the flat side Arashi. I've never had any luck. And just being honest with you, other than the topwater baits and the glide bait, the whole Arashi line's just really been overrated to me.
Yeah, it has. It's been a real disappointment, man. I kind of got into the Arashi craze back when Polinick was, he was big with them when that started, and I don't know, dude. If you're throwing Arashis, I don't know what to tell you, man. Good luck with that.
I tried the they got the Arashi lipless crank. I tried it and it had some cool concepts. I just didn't catch any fish on it. I didn't throw it that much. Did I give it an honest chance? Probably not. But I'm a kind of guy, and I think a lot of people are. I'll buy tackle all the time, and I'll test it out in my pool. I'll go to the pond across the street. If a bait doesn't really have the characteristics that I'm looking for, now what I'm looking for may be different than you or somebody else. I kind of put it to the side, but I keep a mental note of, hey, this bait did do this really well. So if I
Yeah,
get in a situation kind of like you, where you're fishing the wood, you go, I know what I got for this.
exactly.
Because this bait right here is excellent when I'm fishing brush, but it's not any good when I'm fishing riprap or whatnot. So,
Yeah,
I actually organize a lot of baits like that by, this is a flat side. This is all my wood baits. This is all my, injected. This is,
yep. Yeah, that's actually a really smart. Um, it depends, if you're fish only one body of water all the time too. There's a lot of lures you probably shouldn't be spending money on.
yes.
You know,
And one thing we should, we better go ahead and get into it. There's a lot of colors you don't have to have.
yeah.
Now, I'll just say, I know I'm on your stream, but straight up, man, does color matter?
Does color matter? I got my buddy Get Your Fish on, Steve Chapman. He's the one that stirred this whole pot, this whole hornet's nest for me back when we started our very first show together.
Well, I like
Uh,
stirring the pot about baits. You know what I mean? This is good stuff.
it is. It is.
I like exploring the bounds of the baits, the fishing world, in my world, which is the tackle part.
Exactly. Does color matter? We've been having pros. We've been interviewing pros, quite a few pros here recently, and we've been asking them this question every time they come on. Does color matter? And I've been kind of on the side, yes, color matters. Steve's on the opposite end. Color does not matter at all. Partially because he works with a lot of bait companies, and partially because he
Right,
fishes in Florida and he only throws black and blue like
right, right.
99.9% of the time. So in his world, doesn't matter. I mix it up quite a bit. But it's definitely overrated. And this is the thing that's kind of blowing my mind. Every pro from Jacob Wheeler on down has said the same thing. Well, it doesn't matter as much as you think it does. I'm like, the first time he
But
first got me
then they
down,
all have like
I
you
was
got to
like,
go buy
what?
my you got to go buy my custom color, DT10 or
My big
DT6.
shad, my big shad
Buy the
color,
big shad,
my
awesome
root
color by the
beer,
way. Yeah,
that big shad is an awesome color. Uh,
Blake
but
Hornsby says it doesn't matter as long as it's green pumpkin. I
yeah,
think in soft plastics. So here's my theory. I've been around pros and all that, and taking all the pro out of the equation. I'm not a pro,
yeah,
but for me, soft plastics. Blake makes a pretty good point. I'm pretty, I'm pretty much green pumpkin, plum, and some form of watermelon seed. Now, does that mean I only throw those three colors? I may throw a green pumpkin blue, a green pumpkin red, or watermelon purple, watermelon
yeah,
blue. But
yeah.
I only really have three base colors. I like a watermelon base color and some clearish water or clear water.
Mm-hmm.
I like a green pumpkin anywhere. You can throw green pumpkin in the mud. Just dip the tail in chartreuse or red.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then plum, offshore, Tennessee River, Texas. For some reason, that plum, that blue fleck, those fish really like it. And what I was told by someone is red is the last color in the spectrum to dissipate. Uh, or it actually, no, excuse me, blue is, but
red
red
disappears
actually
first.
red disappears first. So when that worm is on the bottom, bass are feeding by their lateral line. They can't just see it. They can't recognize it. They're going by the vibration. So I don't know what it looks like, but it's probably not really seeing the whole thing, but it's feeling it, and boom, it makes the bite. Does
Yeah,
it make sense? Yeah, it does in a scientific standpoint. But the non-scientific explanation to me is they just bite it. You know what I mean?
yep, yeah. Well, Jacob said that pretty much when it comes to soft plastics, green pumpkin, black and blue, a natural color, a white. That's about it.
Yeah.
But he did say when you get to hard baits, it matters a little more. He said I think it does matter a little more when you get to hard
I
baits.
would I would agree with that 100%. And I think what matters more than just the specific color is shade. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like, for example, this is a red Rapala and Demon.
yeah,
You can't tell me that you can't throw a 6 cent spade or Strike King in that same shade of red and still catch
yeah,
fish. And I've been
right.
around guys wearing them out on a Spro Little John and Spring Crawl, and I've got one that's not exactly Spring Crawl, but it's the same shade. I can catch fish behind them, but there's a big difference between throwing a chartreuse bait and a red bait on some days, and I think the bass key into a certain shade of a color.
Absolutely.
And here I am, and I've got 5,000 different 6 cent colors behind me, but there's days when I feel like they really key in on a red bait, and it doesn't matter which kind of red it is.
Yeah.
But then
Uh,
there's days that I feel like, man, they don't want a bright red; they want something muted down, and I think that goes into play with the watercolor conditions and the sky. I think the sky matters sometimes more than the
Yeah,
watercolor.
cloud cover, how much sun, the reflection, all that matters a ton. And I'm the same as you. I got every color under the sun. But, uh, I was thinking while you were saying that, take the example of springtime, go down to Rayburn, for example.
Correct.
Everybody's throwing red,
Mm-hmm.
Rayburn red, orange red, some sort of red, right? Everybody's doing it. And even if they're not biting on red, you're going to be throwing red, and your confidence is in red. And
Correct.
confidence has a ton to do with catching fish also. But it has fascinated me how everybody will be at Rayburn throwing red, and then out of the blue, someone's going to throw
Like a
fire
fire
tiger
tiger.
or
Yeah.
some other color, and they're going to whack them. They're going to win the tournament.
Dude, did you just read my mind?
I guess so, man. That
I think
was
we just
wild.
became best friends.
Yeah. Man, this whole color thing's really fun to uh, churn around in your mind, to debate about. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's just take my Balsa bait box here, for example. If I cannot drop it on my head here, Whew.
That was close.
These are really cool boxes, by the way, Mr. Bass. I'm not endorsed by Plano, and I gotta give a shout out to Hella Bass. These are Plano. This is I believe it.
Does it have like 2 layers on it or something?
Yeah, it's got 2 layers. So this has got like almost all flat side small balsa in here. On the bottom, I got my big thumpers and stuff like that. But
cool.
if you look at this balsa box,
Hellabass has a good channel too, guys. If you're not subscribed,
great.
If you're not subscribed to Hellabass, you need to go check him out.
So I got all these in here, and actually, what I don't have a lot of is craw colors. I'm more of a chartreuse guy or a shad guy in my flat sides, but I've got 3 different flat sides here color wise, but they're all a base of like a citrus shad or a chartreuse. Now, do I think this is a little Jimmy Eater flat side? This is a great finesse flat side in fall. It's got a little chartreuse back.
I got some of those.
Little great bait. And you see that's a round bill.
Yeah.
Whereas I got the same body bait where it's got that roundish square bill. So this is kind of my all-around guy. When I'm going around a lot of rock, I'm going to this guy. I'm going to that one right here with the round lip. But my point is they're all a shade of chartreuse. So maybe I'll lose this bait, which is this is a chartreuse and blue one right here. I'm still confident I can pick up a chartreuse and purple. But confidence, you see my box, man. Purple chartreuse, purple and white, tequila shad. I'm just very confident in purple. Will blue work? Absolutely it will. But confidence in a color is just like confidence in a bait.
Yeah.
And
it's huge.
When you got that mentally, whether you're practice fishing or tournament fishing, it makes a big difference. And of course, I fall for, that color's amazing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I do too.
And I'm cool if I catch them, but, springs, I keep my spring selection really simple. I'm just, a red chartreuse. I don't do the big bright reds. I like a little contrast. And so when I mean contrast, what happened a lot of times, like this is a CP Baits flat side. Craig Powers makes that. It's a brown, orange, but it's got that little contrast of yellow and white on there. So when that bait's just kind of twitching right there, you see that flash on the side.
Heck yeah.
I think that triggers a lot of bites too. And that's why I kind of like a multicolored bait.
Talking about contrast, I did another TikTok this weekend that kind of blew up on me as well. Me and my buddy were fishing in kind of darker water around busting shad everywhere. And so I broke out this DT first because it really looks shaddy. It's got kind of a silvery back.
That's a great color, by the way.
White sides, little chartreuse on the belly. Great shad imitator. Couldn't get bit on this thing. Then break out the same bait in this Caribbean shad. They just started whacking it, man. And doesn't look that different, but it's something about the nuances and I think it was the flash you could get off of this color, and maybe the fact that it showed up better in that dirtier water.
Right.
And they just crushed this Caribbean shad over this one.
So it's. I remember Mark Menendez telling me this, and I know I talk about Mark a lot, but he's like one of my best friends. But I was like 16 or 17. I fished my first BFL or second BFL, and I got a check or something. Maybe I just missed a check. And Mark was talking to me. He'd come over, and he said, "Well, what were you throwing?" And I told him, "Well, I was throwing a rattle trap, and at 2 o'clock, I switched over and was throwing root beer, and I caught like 10 fish. I had 2 or 3 jump off. Couple shorts, but I had 2 good ones." And he said on Lake Barkley, when that water gets that kind of milky color, it's not quite mud, but it's stained. He said that I like a rattle trap that's got a white flash to it. And he explained that root beer color is really good because when it's shivering and whatnot, the flash off that white and that dirty water is a lot more strong than a red or even a chartreuse. He said sometimes the chartreuse tends to blend in a little bit in muddy water. And I thought, that's very interesting. I just picked it up because all I heard was root beer, root beer, root beer. But
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
that's kind of the understanding, guys like Mark, and I know Skeet Reese is a pretty big color guy, and there's a few, Kelly Jordan's big on it. And of course, I've seen a lot of these pros buy tackle, so they may
Yeah.
tell you one thing on a YouTube video, but I've seen their receipts. It ain't like they just always buy green pumpkin or red or chartreuse and blue, but that kind of always got. That's kind of the reason I started buying different things, because I want baits to have a certain flash or throw a certain shade in certain color waters. You go to real clear Lake St. Clair, Lake Erie,
Yeah.
you'll notice those guys really transparent on their colors. They'll
Absolutely.
throw a lot of silvery stuff.
Hmm.
And then when it gets overcast, that's when they break out the table rocks and the bright pinks and the big chromes, because those
Hmm.
fish in the clear water, you always hear people say, "Oh, you don't want the bass to see your lure." Well, actually, especially throwing in jerk bait, that jerk bait's the best example. I think shade and color matters 100%.
Yes,
Bass are visually feeding on your lure.
that's right.
It is a
100%.
reaction bite, but it's not, because they usually react when it goes past them and they got to eat it, but they're usually watching that bait, and it could be
Yeah.
sitting in front of their face suspended for 4 or 5 seconds. And so that's where I think color really matters, especially when those skies change. You can go from really catching them to not a bite. You can change colors real quick. You start getting some more bites. Bass tend to feed up. Jerk bait, you're fishing over fish. Very rarely you're going to catch a fish above it, eat a jerk bait. Maybe some schooling fish, but that's a different. That's a whole different game.
Yeah, and we're moving into jerkbait season now. At least for me, I don't really start throwing a jerkbait till the water cools down. And I know you can throw it in warm water, but I don't. Um,
Yeah, that would be a good stream for you to do some uh, myths, bass fishing myths, like jerk baits are only for spring and fall. Man, there's
yeah,
been a lot of money won on jerk baits.
yeah. Go watch KVD on that Major League tournament where he was throwing a jerkbait all day long and caught freaking 50 pounds a day or something insane. Yeah, that's the whole color thing. Part of another message that I was trying to share. It's a couple other messages when it comes to color. Is one is when the water's real dirty and you throw green pumpkin with chartreuse tips. You don't throw green pumpkin with chartreuse tips because bass love chartreuse tip green pumpkin in muddy water. You throw it because they can see it.
Right, right,
And it's the same with black and blue. I don't throw black and blue in muddy water because they only like black and blue in muddy water. It's so they can see the bait, they can see the silhouette better in dark water. And so when you talk about color, there's times when color matters because they're actually keying in on the color. Sometimes you make a color decision just so that you have a better profile or a better outline in the water, and it's got nothing
right,
to do with what color the bait really is.
right. And I'll be honest, sometimes I don't think it matters at all, because they're
Yeah,
just biting. You know what I mean?
that's
You
right.
ever had one of those
Sometimes
days where you run out of your favorite color worm and you
that's the
just, well, I'll
best
just
day
try
ever.
this, and they just keep on biting? Uh, Sometimes that bass, they're just triggered to feed, and we all love those days.
Those are
But
the best, man. There's nothing funner than that.
if
For
it
sure.
didn't matter, I always said this: if it didn't matter, we would have all been stuck with one or two colors, and
Yeah,
everybody would be catching fish every day.
yeah. Fishing's just hard enough that we'll try a million different colors just to keep it interesting. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the other thing I wanted to say about color before we move on to something else is if you're new to the fishing game and you want to get started, you do not need 100 colors. You don't have to
Mm,
break the bank. You don't have to go spend a fortune on 30 different colors. Just kind of like you said at the beginning, your few key colors. You can start with 3 or 4 key colors and kill them. You can do just great. And then as you get more experience, you want to start spending more money, then you can start expanding, your color palette, if you will.
yeah, I mean, just keep it simple. Have some sort of a shad pattern. So there's your shad shade. Have some kind of a chartreuse or yellow for your dirtyish stained water, and have you some red some sort of red craw colors for your spring and late fall, winter. Red's really underrated in late fall and winter. I feel like I neglect it, but a lot of guys throw it, catch fish. Any kind of variation. In your chartreuses for the summer, you've got chartreuse blue, chartreuse purple, chartreuse black. Hey, girl. What's
Got
up?
the family.
You want to say hi?
Hey,
His name,
hey.
can you say hello, Mr. Bass?
How you doing?
See? All right. Can go back inside?
Gotta love family, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, so what's your opinion of red hooks?
If you ask my dad, he would tell you they're the greatest thing ever invented.
I know guys like that.
So this is a true story. When they first come out, remember we talked about that root beer rattle trap?
Yeah.
So my dad and a guy he worked with, they went fishing. I'd actually found some fish. I was probably about 18 or 19. And I said, yeah, you want to go catch some? There's a few down this bank. Dude, they caught like a 30-pound bag on Kentucky Lake. And this was kind of before it blew up. And the guy he's fishing with said, man, Jerry whipped me. That's my dad's name. I said, really? He said, we were throwing the exact same bait. I said, well, what was the difference? He said, your dad had a red hook on the front of his rattle trap. He said, every fish was hooked on that red hook. Well, I went with my dad the next day and fished. I didn't have no red hooks, and I whipped him. So guess what he did when he got home?
Took his red hooks off?
A couple weeks later, we went fishing again. He red hooked me. He beat me. But he is convinced that it matters. Me, I don't know.
I don't either.
You know what I worry about on a hook? Is it sharp?
Yes.
And
Me
maybe
too.
his red hooks were sharper than the dude that was fishing with him. I don't know. But
yeah,
I think on a topwater bait, I think it might matter just a little bit, especially on the back. The bleeding hook with the white tail. I think it could matter a little bit. Just a little something different there.
Well, one that's kind of a signature thing for monster bass. All their crankbaits, they put a red hook on. That's kind of their thing.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Debo, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Debo, appreciate
Debo
that,
in the
man.
house, man. Talk about a bait nerd, man. That's a dude right there.
Well, I was hoping to go see Debo. The company I worked for was their headquarters isn't that far from his house, but I changed jobs.
Yeah.
But the good thing is I'll have more vacation time and work breaks that I may just go with Debo just to go fishing and watch some dirt racing. I'm into that redneck stuff. But
nice. That sounds like a blast.
Let me ask you this: since you say red hooks, how about feathered trebles? A lot of topwaters don't always come with feather. Or do you always swap them out, or do you?
I'm telling you what, if I don't have a feathered treble on my popper, I'm 100% sure I'm not going to catch anything.
Right.
That's
a confidence deal for me.
Me too, totally. Now, when I get on other topwaters like a spook or something, I don't care about a treble, a feathered treble at all.
Right.
But it's one of those things, dude. And like you said, man, if you don't have confidence in something, it doesn't matter if it works. You're not going to catch fish on it. It's weird. That's the one thing about fishing that has baffled me is how much the psychology of the fisherman plays into the success of the fish a lot of times. Now, there are days, like you said, when literally they're going to hit anything. You're going to catch them. You can just throw a hook out there and you're going to catch fish. But, dude, the confidence of the angler is huge, man. It really is.
Right. And one thing I'd like to we were talking about beginner baits and the colors and stuff. One thing I also would like to say is I see this on the internet quite a bit. Hey, I'm kind of guilty of it. Beginning guys want to jump into high-end baits. Like, I got to, I love Megabass, dude. I'm a Megabass fan. They make awesome stuff. But if I'm a high school fisherman or
dude, you do not need
it. So easy to get wrapped up in. I'm watching this YouTuber throw this $20 JDM. I'm watching hookup tackle, and you're spending $200-300.
Yeah,
dude. Day in, day out, a Smithwick Rogue, a 6 cents Provoke, and a KVD jerkbait for beginning fishermen. You catch a lot of fish. Now,
check this little thing out.
Great bait. The what I call the Rick stick.
Yeah, $8. You can buy this at Walmart. And it catches fish, dude. I have caught so many fish on that thing. I mean, I have my Vision 110s, but you're right. That
Yeah,
was
I
a big
mean,
mistake I made. I think when I really started getting heavy into fishing, is if I heard somebody say it was a good bait, I just went out and bought it,
right.
and that's a bad idea.
Again, too, it's got to tailor to your style. You know what I mean? A lot of those
Yes,
JDM jerk baits are really finessey. I'm not the
yes,
greatest finesse fisherman. I like to power fish. So the ones that work best for me, a Vision 110 is a pretty finessey jerk bait, really. It doesn't work really good on real hard rips. It's kind of a light tap to me.
uh huh, uh huh.
Whereas like the Rogue responds really good to hard jerks and twitches. Uh, the, the striking jerk bait's actually really underrated. It's pretty good. And the provoke, those work the best for me. Whoa,
Heck yeah.
got a donation from my buddy here, Bill
Oh, good.
Morgan, Vol for Life. We had a rough weekend, if you saw
Oh
that.
man, yeah. You guys, the volunteers have had a rough go of it for quite a while now. I'm a Crimson Tide fan, so I know all about that.
Oh
Uh,
man, I'm fixing to end the stream, buddy.
yeah,
It's the third week of October.
Lane Kiffin, dude. The way you guys were throwing all those bottles on the field was just freaking hilarious, man.
Bill says, from an old smallmouth fisherman, colors don't matter so long as it's crawfish. That, you know what? There's some truth in that. For some reason, smallmouth and crawfish just all year round. They like that.
Also, a
Uh,
big fan of Yellow Titleist.
Thanks, Bill. Man, I appreciate it. Long time internet poster, Bill Morgan.
Awesome,
Great dude.
awesome.
We
Sounds like
may
a
or
great
may
guy.
not have a couple thousand posts on a top secret volunteers message board, but
Sounds like a great guy. You know,
I
it's
met.
kind of funny you mentioned about the old Crimson Tide thing. For my whole life, I have hated Auburn with a passion. Hated them. You know, I
Mm,
was born and raised. You know, when you got the pacifier, you also were told Auburn is the devil.
right.
They are horrible. They're horrible people. It's a horrible team. Everything about it's horrible. And it has taken me my entire life to kind of get the hate out when it comes to Auburn. And I still love the rivalry, but I got some really good buddies that are big Auburn fans now, and I can swallow it. I
Let
can
me let
take
me
it.
ask you this: at what point? Well, it won't happen in MLF because they don't have fans. But let's say Jacob Wheeler was winning all these tournaments on bass, and he won like 3 classics in a row. At what point would people start throwing water bottles?
Yeah,
Or would
not
somebody like,
ever,
or would
not
somebody like
ever.
Matt Robertson just be like, "Come on, throw me the water"? People just start throwing water bottles at Matt Robertson. He's just chugging them, just double
Where did the
chug of water
mustard
left and
bottle
right.
come from? Where did
It
the
had to come
mustard
from
bottle?
it had to come from the concession stands.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, you're right. It would had to. I mean, there's no way somebody brought a mustard bottle into the stadium. But dude,
What's
that
up,
was
Justin Rule? You know what? If anybody wants to make a meme of me and Mr. Bass, I'm all for it. Please, somebody roasted me really good in Swimbait Universe today, and
heck yeah, man.
we got Baitman Jr. in the house.
Right on.
How you feeling
Future.
about that football?
Good.
Good.
I heard you beat up on your dad today playing ball.
Did you beat up on me playing football? Yeah.
Right on.
He's playing cornerback. He did pretty good. He's
Cool, cool.
learning to cover those guys. All's good, Royal, man. I appreciate you in the stream, man. Matter of fact, I got to give Royal a little plug here. I hate to really take over as a guest on your stream. I'm bad about that.
No, I'm
Royal
welcome
has
to.
been throwing these KGB swim baits, and they're sweet. He's got his own color in the KBG Legend. It's called Royal Shad. I just saw it a while ago. And
Oh wow, that's cool. I've
and
seen
I know
some
you're a
huge.
swim bait guy, dude.
That's all right. I love my swim baits, and I've seen some huge bass. Old Justin Royals caught lately. Some big
Dude,
pictures,
I'm going
big
to tell y'all
posts.
right now, I have been in the boat with the dude. That guy is passionate about fishing, and his willingness to learn something on the water it's a high level. Like when me and Captain Ron and Royal were fishing, he fishes, but he listens. And he has no problem saying, "All right, stop. Can you explain that to me?" And he picks up on it really, really well. That's an attribute I think a lot of younger anglers and a few other guys miss a lot of times is, oh, I seen this YouTuber this or this pro says that. But if you get in a boat with a guy that's got a little bit more knowledge or a little bit more skill than you, if you can kind of pick up a little bit of what he's doing
Yeah,
and why he's doing it, it makes you a better fisherman. Now, listen, I'm not a
absolutely.
great fisherman at all, and I'm definitely hard headed. and my problem is I like to play. I'll get out there and I want to throw 50 different baits.
Yeah.
But when I get locked down into tournament mode, it's a whole different ball game.
I have been kind of surprised since I've gotten into the YouTube game, which has only been a little over a year now. Uh, Dude, it's not a competition, man.
Oh no, man.
All what do they say? Rising tide lifts all boats. I'm tickled pink if you're successful, man. It's awesome to see how much Justin's channel's grown just this last year. It's been amazing. His growth has just been off the charts.
Dude, it's
Uh,
just so
I,
crazy, man.
I want to
He
be I want to be just like him someday.
Yeah,
But
it's so crazy. Royal has been, man, he's been there with me for the ride. He's one of my ride or die guys. Like I remember when I just had 3,000 or 4,000 subs, and Royal was in the chat and asking. He was not afraid to ask questions and soaks it up, man. And I love it, man. All the success he's had, and he's fishing as much as he can. It's kind of like me though, and I don't mean this bad. It's like Royal fishes every day. He knows the grind of staying up late and editing videos, and
yeah,
he
no
doesn't
doubt.
have kids and nothing against that, but it's tough to do what he's doing and seeing the growth. And dude, I wish him nothing but the best. I just want to go fishing with him more because
That sounds awesome.
I am going to come down there and I'm going to pull out my jank juice and I'm going to bust out one of them big belly Sallies on my own bait. He likes a jank juice. I might even throw Chester Cheeto. We might have a challenge one day.
Jane juice would work good up here, especially at Table Rock.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good color. Definitely. Always want to be throwing a little purple at Table Rock, especially subtle purple.
Yeah. I think I told you the other day, my brother-in-law, he lives really close. He lives in Sedalia, so they fish Truman quite a bit.
Oh yeah. Truman's not bad. It's actually getting better. It kind of hit a slump there a few years ago. It was kind of off the charts, and then it kind of went through kind of a down phase. Tons of timber. Yeah, I'll tell you want to get intimidated, go to Truman Lake and try to pick out where you should throw your jerk bait. What stump you should throw it at. I mean, there's
Yeah,
like 10 million stumps out there, literally.
dude,
And you
that's
better have
what
a
comes.
good insurance policy for a lower unit out there too.
I think that's what keeps us all coming back to fishing. It's different than any other sport out there, and I'll be honest. Sometimes I debate if it's really a sport or not. Uh, I feel there's a lot of things that need to be changed at the professional level to really legitimize it all under one league, But
Yeah,
not every stump's the same. Not every tree's the same.
that's
You know
right.
what I mean? One
That's
day they're
right.
on a leaning tree. One day they're on vertical trees. One day they want horizontal structure. And it's a challenge for every angler to go out there every day and find fish. You can go by waypoints. You can have live scope, not have live scope. Uh, that's just an endless debate that, to be honest, a lot of the videos and stuff out there are really for clicks and views, but there's nothing wrong with challenging your mind and stuff like that. So,
Absolutely. All right, here's a crankbait I wanted to get your take on. You may
all
have
right.
talked about this. You may have talked about this one in your channel before. I don't know.
Oh yeah. So that is a very popular one. Lee Sisson.
Right on. This is called the Big Sisson Shallow 2 in lavender shad.
Now we're talking my color right there. Got
Yeah.
like that old Norman lavender shad, man.
These are kind of hard to find,
Yeah.
but we got a local tackle store up here that had a bunch of them. Me and my buddy Joe bought a lot of them. I really like them. I've got quite a few different colors. This is kind of like a real
It's like
nice.
that old bandit pearl blue back, man. That's just a really good color.
Yeah,
It's a shad imitator.
this one's called the Thumper Shallow.
I think Sisson makes pretty good baits. They're very mass produced balsa bait.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. The ones I've had, they ran good. And to me, the biggest quality of balsa, not the paint jobs, not always the build, do they run good?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're right because there's a lot of junk out there, man. That
Mm-hmm.
if you got to tune a bait like every 4 casts, you might want to look at something different.
I know this is weird, but sometimes you'll get that one bait that's a little out of tune, but it still runs straight, and that's usually the one they like.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll get that one crankbait that just gets a little weird kick in it, and all of a sudden you start catching fish. That's the one I mark on. That's the tournament day bait.
yeah, yeah. In fact, that reminds me. I remember Frank Scalish saying something along those lines. He was talking. I don't remember which crankbait he was talking about, but he's a Norman freak, so it was probably one of the
Mhm.
Norman lures. But he was talking about how he likes to. He's got one specific crankbait that he can tune it and throw it along the edge of docks, and it'll go right under the docks. All he's got to do is tune it left or right, and he can get it to swim under the dock. And that's the kind of stuff, once you become a little more experienced in your crankbait fishing, that kind of stuff, you kind of learn some of those tricks, which is makes it a little more enjoyable. All right. One thing I was gonna uh, talk to you about a little bit is kind of the evolution of some lures. Like, for example,
Sure.
uh, prop baits. For example, I was trying to think what's the first prop bait out there that I threw, and I think it was a devil horse.
Right.
Here's one with.
So that's an OG legendary deal, and the devil horse has always been a staple in Florida or a Bagley Bango lure. Uh,
Mhm.
those prop baits are deadly on spawning fish. Now I don't have anything. I don't have anything, but my guy Brett Cannon at 6 cents gave me this guy, and he's from Florida. Very similar to a devil's horse. He didn't even know the name. A guy custom painted this and everything. But
Uh-huh.
it's got that old school vibe. You got the two props here.
Yeah,
It's got
yeah,
some old hook hangers on there. And
yeah.
he put some new hooks on that. Prop bait was really probably one of the first kind of top waters. I've actually got some really old ones here that my buddy Darius had sent me. There's a little shorty right there. I think this is a heading bait. Y'all have to excuse me. When it comes to vintage antique stuff, that's out of my element. I'm like
Me too. Me too.
1985 to present. But these small little prop baits are really, really popular. And then here's another one. But it's crazy how everything's evolved, even in the prop baits. I
I
like
know
it.
it's like this here. Have you heard of the prop walker?
Yes.
All right. This looks like a cane walker or something. It looks,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but this is a prop bait, and the kind of stuff out there that that they're creating nowadays. This has these little fins that you pull out, and then it spins.
Huh.
It's got a
It's kind of
propeller
got
on
a
it.
Kane Walker shower blow body and then kind of got
Yeah,
the little prop tail. That's
yeah.
interesting.
You can fish it without the prop they just snap in place, and then you can just fish it like you would a normal topwater pop and plug, basically. But if you want some prop action, you just break it open and away you go. And I don't know if this is frog fur or not. I just got this in my Florida Tackle Club box. But I was like, dude, man, your old uh, your old prop baits. I mean, what else is a prop bait? A whopper plopper is a prop bait. I mean,
Right.
it's just a
Yeah, a lot of guys don't realize you can slow reel a prop bait and kind of get that kind of a plopper buzz baitish deal out of it. I like that Cotton Cordell Crazy Shed. That's one of my most underrated favorite baits. And I catch a lot of fish just letting it sit there and barely moving. The reel hand on those blades are just sitting there kind of barely moving.
yeah, yeah,
Not really churning the water, but it's flashy. And you stop and those bass come up and crush it.
yeah. And then if you take it another direction, the spy bait. That's all
Yeah.
that is a prop bait, and it's
It's
so super finessey. Now it's not a topwater bait, which most of the time you think of a prop bait, you think of a topwater bait, but dude, spy bait it's kind of a new revolution. There's
Well,
now I'm
now
not
you got the Mega Bass Oshakira jig head with the little prop on the front of it, and it's meant to just be super finessey. You know,
exactly. And then there's stuff like this out there now, which
mm-hmm.
this has a prop on the back here, and then of course it's got these big fins on it, and there's all kinds of companies that make a flavor of this.
I'll
Which is,
grab something here. I did a video on this bait one time. Hold on.
I'm going to take this out of the package so you guys can see this up closer. If you've never seen a pompadour by Jackal, this thing is
This might be
crazy.
same company right here. Maybe the craziest prop bait I've got. The only problem about this bait, it casts really weird. The Jackal chop cut.
Dude,
So you got
that
this
is
big
crazy.
fat body. You know, the hooks are on the bottom. You got this. It's like a helicopter blade. Dude, this thing sounds wicked coming in the water. I've thrown it several times. I actually caught a few fish on it. It's not real accurate. You
That looks
gotta
like a
lead your
Halloween lure, man.
yeah. You kind of gotta lead your cast with this thing. So if you're wanting to just pinpoint a stump, you better aim a little bit to the right because when you cast, the blades tend to like make it curve. It's like Chuck
Okay,
Knobloch.
dude, I have the world's craziest prop bait on the planet. I guaranteed. Check this thing out.
Oh, dude, yeah.
This is just like that pompadour, but this is a dachshund dog. It's got a collar. He's got
Wow.
his ears. Can turn it this way, get a little tongue action from your dog. This though is a working prop bait. This sucker, you can throw it if you want to. I mean, this sucker's $100. So if you want to throw it, if you want to throw it and fish with it, it's Japanese, and they have made it to fish. It's a commemorative lure. But dude, is that crazy
That
or
is. Have you seen
what?
the? I'm gonna get these for Baitman Jr. for Christmas, but you know they got the Pokemon lures, and they
Oh
got
yeah,
one of
yeah,
the Pokemon. The Kygor is a what I call a prop walker. You know, a crawler bait, but you know I consider it
yeah.
kind of a prop lure. But those lures have a cult following,
They
and
do.
they get smashed.
This is called the wing ducks. That's the name of this lure, and it's made by a company called Fish Arrow. And this was like a 20-year commemorative bait that they made when their company had its 20th anniversary.
That's
So
sweet.
it is pretty sweet. It's pretty. I mean, dude, this is what makes. There's no point in that thing at all. But man, I just had to have that thing when I saw it. I just
Dude,
had
I
to.
get like that. You know, I'll see these JDM and crazy stuff. I have no business buying, but I do. I would get really into swim baits too. I mean, I'm hunting down a couple right now. Will I throw them much? I don't know. Um, so if anybody in the stream has a lead on an 8-inch HPH high power herring, let me know. I'm trying to find one, but
Dude, that's a great lure right there. Old Matthew Acevedo right here. He hooks me up on a lot of swim bait stuff. This dude right
great
here,
dude.
and he might be able to hook you up. Who knows?
I think he slid in my DMs.
Yeah, he's the real deal. Okay, here's another thing I was going to talk about when it comes to kind of bait evolution. I was going to go to the soft plastic market here for a second. What is the first creature bait you remember throwing?
Actually, you know, most people would say I was a brush hog, but the first one that wasn't exactly a worm that I remember throwing was made by a company called Harville's Lures. It was called the Chicken Foot.
Yeah,
You remember the Chicken Foot? It was
yeah,
basically a kind of a straight worm, and it had two little feet come off of it. The Chicken's Foot was a really good bait.
yeah. If I remember right, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems to me like before there was such thing as a brush hog, guys threw lizards.
Correct. Everyone
Uh,
forgets a lizard, and they still slay.
this was a creature bait. You know, this
Mm-hmm.
was the creature bait, and
Right.
I still love a lizard. You're right, man. If you're not throwing a lizard, you're probably missing fish. Especially when you consider a lot of guys don't throw lizards anymore, but they still are great.
You know, Randy Blockett made a video, as it was there yesterday, talking about lizards in the fall, and people forgot about them. And as much as sometimes I disagree with a few things that Randy says, I think he's a good person, great fisherman.
Yeah.
Uh, which again, that makes fishing videos fun if
Yeah.
everybody thought the same way. But I agree that a lizard's a really good bait in the fall for soft plastics. It's a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more natural. Uh, you can fish it a lot of different ways because if you think about it, fall things are cooling down. You've got a lot of uh, reptiles and stuff that are really trying to get out of the water. It's a big source of protein for them. So now, are bass that specific? I don't know, but lizard's just a good profile. It's a bass don't like them, and even in the fall, they're definitely slept on. But you're right. That's really the first kind of creature bait, and then you had like the chicken's foot, and then obviously the brush hog,
Brush
and
hog.
now you've got yeah, dude.
There's-
I tell you, a good bait that's slept on. Evolution of a creature bait. You had the brush hog, the baby brush hog, and then Zoom came out with the super hog, which a lot
Yeah.
of guys use as a punching bait.
Uh-huh.
It's a really good Carolina rig bait.
That
Don't
is a
ask me
great.
why, but it floats up really good. It's finessey, and you put a 3/0 hook in it, and it's almost that bait's almost all hook. You catch a lot of fish on that.
Here's another clue too. If every company under the sun is making a bait like a creature bait, you can bet your bottom dollar it's a bait to have in your tackle box. You don't have to have every brand. This is the Man Bear Pig by
I love the
Reaction
man bear
Innovation.
pig.
And
Okeechobee crawl, one of my favorite colors, man.
I mean, look at it compared to the brush hog. But a lot of similarities you'll see with these kind of baits. But if every company under the sun makes it, you probably ought to be buying. You ought to at least have a brush hog or something in there. Kitech makes a kind of crazy one before. Have you seen the crazy flapper?
Yes, I've caught some really big fish on that, by the way.
Yeah,
That's a
this is
really good
another.
wobblehead bait for some reason.
Well, this one is super versatile for a lot of different reasons. Um, if you notice all the appendages on this thing, similar to a brush hog, and you can pull these all apart and you can tear ones off and slim it down and trim it all you want. But this body, this segmented body, you can really tear apart as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can. This is probably one of the most versatile creature baits out there, and I bet you
It's a good jig trailer as well.
exactly,
I'll pull
exactly.
the front ones off, and
Yes,
you can pull just the middle appendages on the bottom down, and you basically
yeah.
got a straight crawl.
And when you talk about color, dude, this looks like I love this color.
Yeah, sprayed. It kind of looks
It's
like sprayed grass, like a
yeah. What do they call this one? They call it sprayed grass.
I'll be dang.
That's a great color. Color doesn't matter though.
Little bait fact: Gambler Lures was the first company to make a color called sprayed grass.
And Ketchco is they got their new creature bait,
Yeah,
the
I've seen that.
Zuchi bug. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I'm not huge on Catchco stuff,
I
but
know.
they do make some stuff I like. I
Yeah,
like their Ned rig bait a lot.
I do like it as well too.
The
This thing
Yodo
here,
worm I've heard good things about.
this thing here looks like it came out of Jurassic Park or something. Uh, with these weird fins.
So if you took the little fins off,
Yeah,
that's basically what we would have called the chicken's foot.
yeah, okay. You can see that it's got, but it's amazing to me from lizard to this now. I mean, who knows what else? Who's going to come up with something next? But
But now you got we're not doing creature baits anymore. We're doing like gill imitators. You've got the depths, bull flat. You've got the OSP gill, the gee crack, bellows gill, and so they're
dude,
trying to
when
get a
I
different
saw this,
profile.
when I saw this thing, I was like, "What the?" I was just like, "Holy crap! Are you kidding me?" I mean, it has an amazing action in the water, but this is one of those just kind of like paradigm shift. Your
Mm-hmm.
whole thinking is just like, "Holy crap, man! Is that real? Are they really catching fish on that thing?" It's That's amazing, man.
The only issue I have with the geek crack stuff it tears up really fast.
Yeah, it's not super. It's super slimy too, man. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
one I've had out of the package so much that it's actually kind of dried out now. But man, you couldn't hold this in your hand when it comes right out of the package. It will slip right through your fingers. It is so slimy. But this
Yeah,
is like, you talk about evolution of baits, man. What would your grandfather think if you broke this out of your,
he'd probably laugh at you.
He'd be like, "Have you lost your freaking mind, kid? What's your problem?" But it's kind of fun, nerdy
I've
stuff.
got to try this little free rig deal out. Everyone's talking about the free
Yeah.
rig, and I've heard the little small uh, bellows gill and then the
Mhm.
small bull flat are really good on
Yes.
a free rig. And the way it's kind of like a reverse drop shot. So if your weight goes down, the bait just follows the weight.
Right.
But the
Right.
bait suspends as it's falling. The weight goes to the bottom, but the bait's just kind of falling real slow behind it.
Yeah.
Uh, Very interesting. And again, I'm not a finesse guy. I'm trying to be. I do
Well,
some finesse fishing, but
I think you can free rig that. You can power fish that free rig too. If you've ever fished like the Tokyo rig, um, and I power fish the Tokyo rig quite a bit. The free rig, I mean, the only difference is it moves freely. It's not
mhm.
stationary attached to your hook, and I like it. I've started throwing it some, and I think it's going to
But
be
you know
real
what's
good
kind of
because
crazy is we talk about that bait, the evolution of baits. Let's just the first play that wasn't a traditional creature bait. I got to give credit to where it was due. The Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver. How many companies have a beaver bait? Six Sense has the prawn,
every
which is
company,
always called the prawn, the HD version of
yeah,
the beaver. And
yeah,
you've got what's Berkeley, the Pit Boss, that was their version.
yes,
Strike King Rodent, and then you
yep,
got the Structure Bug, which was kind of a revamped rodent with the rage tail appendages. You got
yep.
the D Bomb. Who doesn't have a really good beaver bait? But Reaction Innovations, man, I remember when that bait come out, I was like, what? Because I see this all the time on fishing forums and on internet. And I watched a YouTube video a year ago, and this guy was testing baits in his pool, and he said, "I have all these baits. I don't like the sweet beaver because it has no action. No, this is a bait I wouldn't buy any more of."
Uh
And I'm like, man,
huh.
that's what makes it good because,
Cinco.
yep. And brings me to my point. Sometimes in baits, especially soft plastic, sometimes action is overrated. There's
Yes,
your
it
next
is.
topic. You just start asking guys, is action in soft plastics overrated? Because
That's another great question to ask.
a beaver bait style bait doesn't really have any action. Now you get to a
Uh-uh.
structure bug, stuff like that, it's different, but a lot of times, especially fishing shallow cover, the more natural it falls, which is a slight glide, doesn't have to have crazy flapping. When bass are in a negative mood, I feel that natural fall presentation is a lot better. And let's be honest, when you're flipping and pitching, you want that bait going down pretty fast. Those bass you see go and they go boom. But yeah, beaver bait Reaction Innovation started that, man. And of course they've got kinky beaver, spicy beaver, and furry beaver. I don't know. It goes on and on. Man, bear, pig, great stuff, man. From them, it just
I
really
agree.
that bait changed the flipping game quite a bit,
It
quite a bit.
absolutely did. In fact, if you remember, guys used to flip jigs more than they did soft plastics. I
Is
mean,
a jig and tubes. I
that's
feel the
right.
tube is really forgotten about.
That's right. It has disappeared practically. And you go up north, they're not throwing tubes as much as they used to. And that beaver was a game changer, and it still is. It's kind of funny when you see a bait. You kind of think to yourself, what could they come up with next? Just like when the Cinco came out, everybody thought that ain't gonna catch fish. It's a freaking. It don't have any action at all. It does nothing in the water, and man, it took over the world.
Dude,
And
it
it's
did.
and it still does. I mean, that's the other thing. These tried and true game changers like the beaver and the Cinco and other lures out there, you can go decade after decade after decade, and they're still crushing them. the fish still love them.
Yeah.
The brush hog's one of those baits.
Yeah. There's some baits that sorry, I'm trying to get my chat on my phone working here. There's some baits that they're just staples you got to have. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
beaver bait, a Cinco, uh, a fluke soft jerk bait. Man, look where we've gone in the soft jerk. I wish I had a pack here. Remember the Sluggo?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
It's really the first soft jerk bait, and
That's
a lot
right.
of people don't. You hear the story about the Cinco as a worm. Gary Yamamoto used to market that as a soft jerk bait.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And I have
Um,
fished it weightless and twitching it back, and it has this crazy little shimmy, and then yeah.
the other thing I've noticed is that you can take a tried and true bait like the brush hog, for example, and forever it was brush hog and baby brush hog, and it
Mm-hmm.
seemed like forever we were catching them on the brush hog, and then it kind of like fishing pressure, it kind of lost some of its popularity, and then I turn around and everybody's killing them on the baby brush hog, just
Yep.
killing them. So I start throwing babies, and sure enough, the baby still is killing. Now they've got a third size,
The mid-size.
the mid size. And dude, I'm telling you, if you haven't thrown the mid size yet, go put a mid size on. And this kind of just is another example of how you can take a really good lure,
Mm-hmm.
and because of fishing pressure, fish do get accustomed to a bait and that kind of thing. It's smart for these bait companies to mix it up a little bit. Let's use the same exact design. Let's just change the size.
Yeah, you see Strike King do that quite a bit, and sometimes I get a little frustrated. Be like, "Hey, man, let's get some new stuff at iCast." But
Yeah,
when you put it into what you're saying, you got a lot of guys that go, "Man, I love the Magnum structure bug, but I need something in between," or "I love I need a mid-sized." They got the Game Hog and the
yeah,
Game Hog Magnum, but they don't have a real small one.
yeah.
There's a lot of guys that want that finesse. The Game Hog is basically a mid-sized brush hog. It's kind of in between the big brush hog and the small one, and that's a very underrated creature bait. Is the striking game hog. I have seen Mr. Menendez just freaking wear me out on that thing. I'm back there throwing a brush hog or whatnot. That is his confidence bait, and it's the space monkey.
Really, the
You
space
know, you
monk.
you can do the same evolution of baits. You can let's look at how far crawls went. Remember the old Jean LaRue salt crawl?
Heck yeah,
The Zoom salt crawl or the original Zoom crawl
yeah,
didn't have a lot of action. Just kind of looks like a flat crawl.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then you had the ones where you could stuff the round rattles up in the pinchers. You remember that, and make them kind of float up.
Heck yeah, heck yeah,
And then the big thing hit. The packer crawl came along, hollow
dude.
like a tube.
Yeah,
And the alternating
yeah.
movement of the appendages, and all of a sudden there's the chigger crawl,
No, yeah.
then the rage crawl, and
Mhm.
now everybody's got to have a crawl that's got the undulating appendages, that's maximum vibration and all that. But there's still tons of guys that go back to that packer crawl.
That's right. That's right. In fact, you can still get that Jean LaRue craw as well.
That is
And
a really good river bait. For some reason, back in my tackle cell
yeah,
days, guys that fish rivers a lot and
yeah,
fished really high pressured stuff, they liked uh, that salt crawl, that 4 inch salt crawl, real small guy. They really, really like that. And then there's a cult following for the Guido bug too.
heck yeah, there is. I remember, I think it was Larry Nixon fishing one of those on a river, doing a video of it. I remember watching him catching them in a river on that. Another interesting evolution when it comes to baits that's really kind of hit the world. I mean, one that's heavy on my mind right now because everybody's talking about it is scent. And this Mac scent, man, this
Mm.
Berkeley Mac scent has just gone crazy. And this is another one of those like it's a tidal wave right now, man. If,
Yeah.
you, if you're not thinking and talking and buying Mac scent, you're probably missing out. Just like when I thought of that when you said the chigger craw. I got 300 packs of chigger craws in here. Now I got to go buy more because I don't have any in max scent, you know?
Yeah.
And
I've not splurged and bought too much Maxent, and I do like it. I like the Maxent General. As far as the Cinco
yeah,
stick bait, uh, and I like the one that's like a beaver.
yeah.
Um, that uh, is it a game changer? I don't know, but I can tell you if you're not throwing it up north, then you're kind of behind. For some
You're
reason,
not
those
kidding.
northern fish really key on it in small amount.
In fact, I just fished the St. Lawrence tournament a couple of months ago up there, and I had a buddy on the boat for during practice. I was throwing flatworms with no max scent. He was throwing flatworms with max scent and wearing me out. And I didn't think a whole lot about it until that happened. We're literally fishing the same water, same bait, drop shot, the whole deal. And that max scent flat spanked me. I was like, dang, man, there's something to this. There is something to it, especially up north. I agree.
Now, I'm going to ask you what swim baits. How much have they changed? Look, you got them back up there. There's an allure, a mystique of catching a fish on a $300 bait. I get
Yeah.
that, but
There's a $1,500 bait at Tackle Warehouse right now,
can't you
dude.
really
It's
just
2
trace
feet
the
long.
whole swim bait deal back to a Mr. Twister sassy shad?
Yeah, you probably could. I
I mean,
mean,
the most simplest don't have cool colors. I mean, it's white, black, or pearl blue and white, or chartreuse, and that ugly chartreuse black back little sassy shad. Guys were putting them on ball heads way back in the day, and now you got this craziness. You got
well,
3D baits,
what
and you name it.
what I don't know, because I've kind of gotten in on the craze in the last few years. What I don't know is uh, the evolution of the swim bait from Japan, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously the reason we're all throwing glide baits right now is because of Japan.
Right.
Guys in California buying Japanese lures, making copies of Japanese lures, and that's kind of where this has all come about. The way I got into it is I was a marshal on a BASS tournament several years ago now with Brandon Polinick, and it was at Table Rock Lake. I fished Table Rock quite a bit. I mean, it's not that far from me. All my buddies fish Table Rock Lake, and so I feel like I know the lake decent. So I get on the boat with Brandon, and it was an early spring tournament. He breaks out the jerk bait, starts catching them on the jerk bait. He's throwing a few other typical baits, a wiggle wart and stuff like that you would kind of expect that time of year. He gets his limit doing that, mostly on the jerk bait.
Mm-hmm.
And then after he gets his limit, he opens up his rod box and he pulls out this 8-foot long rod. And on the end of it is this bait right here. Different color, but this is the bait. This is what was on his rod.
Negotiator.
The Roman made negotiator. And I said, dude, what the heck are you doing with that,
Mm-hmm.
man? Nobody throws those on Table Rock. This was like way back and early in his career. He said, this is my kicker bait. And it was chewed up, man. That thing was chewed to pieces. And I was like, well, obviously the dude throws it. He says, I throw this every tournament pretty much.
Wow.
He runs over to a brush pile that's in about 8 foot of water in a cove. 6-pounder comes out. Whoosh. Gets his kicker fish. I mean, it's like the second or third cast after he pulls this thing out. And I was like, mind blowing. And it just I mean, I just could not believe it because I didn't know anybody on Table Rock that threw anything like that.
Mm-hmm. I
And
think again that's the mystique. That's the catching that 1 out of 1,000 fish. That's what those big swim baits do. And I see so many guys on the swim bait forums. They're buying everything they can up, and then man, I'm getting out of swim bait fishing. It just ain't for me. And I'm not saying all my baits are, but There ain't no hook crash on the baits. They're, they give up,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's tough, man. I mean, I've fished some glides way more than I should have, and should have been throwing a crankbait or something else. Now,
yeah, yeah,
but I think what Brandon does, that's a better tournament mentality than just going out. Well, I'm going to pull Oliver Nye and throw an eye slide all day, and if I get 5, it's going to be a giant bag.
yeah. Right,
Dude, when you're
right,
fishing for money, the
right.
kind of money they are, and
That eight.
you got to eat, man.
That's
And
right.
so
And that 8 hour day is too short to throw a swim bait all day long. Glide bait. There might be some waterways where it makes sense, Clear Lake or something like that. I don't know, but fishing around here, I would get your limit first and then break out a glide bait. So I've kind of been enamored with them, but the same thing, dude. It's such a mindset to throw big swim baits, and not only that, you have to really have the patience of Job,
yes.
because there are days you're not going to get a freaking bite.
And we talk mentally, you've got to stay mentally strong because at any time a big one can roll up on it. So if you're just out there going through the motions, all of a sudden
Yes.
you get that bite. You've got to be able to capitalize on it. So it's an interesting deal. And you can say the same about finesse fishing, Mr. Bass. Look at Aaron Martins, one of the best anglers I feel that's ever set foot on a boat. He mastered finesse fishing when a lot of guys like spinning rod. That was me. I ain't spinning rod.
Yeah.
Now I've got 2. I'm fixing to order me a 3rd one.
Heck yeah.
So it's crazy, man. I can talk about this stuff. We can go 24 hours.
No doubt. Me too. One thing I will say, if you're thinking about getting in the swim bait game, guys, this is one thing I tell people over and over and over. Don't go buy a freaking $500 rod and a $500 reel and a ton of equipment and a $100 bait. Go out there and buy something like the trace here. I got the trace sitting right here somewhere.
Yeah,
That bait is not very heavy. Here it is right here. This bait is 1.65 ounces. Okay, it's not even 2 ounces long. I mean, in weight. It's 6 inches long. You can take your heavy flipping rod.
Yep.
And throw it on this, and you don't have to buy any new, big, heavy, expensive equipment. Practice on something cheap like this. How much are these, Baitman? You know,
Like $35.
$35. That's cheap for a glide bait. And just practice and figure out if swim bait fishing is for you with something like this, and then start to expand your horizon. But do not go out and buy a freaking 9-foot long rod. It may be the worst decision you ever make, man.
Right. That's something I see a lot in the. I'm browsing the internet all the time. I'm editing video, and I'm always, got my phone pulled up. But you bring a great point up, and I actually suggest that for a lot of stuff too. Just like Balsa crankbaits, for example, you don't have to go have a $400 Megabass flat side special to throw a PH custom
Right,
lure.
right.
Same thing with swim baits. You can get a really good budget rod and reel and have $200 and have a great swim bait setup. If you don't even have that, use a 7.6, 7.11 medium heavy rod. It's going to handle that bait. You don't want it real whippy. You almost want a stiff crankbait rod or a flipping stick, because a lot of flipping sticks, they have some tip to them. Yes, Hellabass, it is not a glide bait. It's a multi-segmented swim bait, but we get confused sometimes. I get confused.
Me
I'm
too.
not gonna out my man, Mr. Bass.
This is another good starter bait right here, the S Waver.
Very good bait.
I got one right here, I think. Yeah, right here. And again, probably around $25, $25.
Yeah, I think
Like
the
that.
168's like $18 on Tackle Warehouse. If you want to $18 to $20, I can't remember. You go up to the 200, which is bigger. It's like $49.
Yeah.
6 cents a glide is that $79 range. So you're actually, there's 2 ways to look at it. One, it's quality. 2, I feel the baits that are for more advanced fishermen tend to cost more because there's so many more different things they can do in
Right.
what you can get. The draw from 6 cents, it takes input from your reel a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Like a high power herring, the Buka glide, those baits are high end, not just because they cost a bit more to make, they're handmade, but you put that in a guy's hands like Matt Allen that really knows what to do in certain
Yeah.
situations. He knows how to
Yes.
manipulate the bait with the rod and the reel to make it do certain things. Some of that you can't get out of a S waver or
Right.
like the trace. It's only you can only do so much with it, just a bait that just swims versus a glide bait. But
The beauty of the S waiver, though, is just that you don't have to think. You can just chuck and wind if you and when you're just getting started. Sometimes it's better to get a little confidence than it is to try to figure out, man, do
right,
how do
I
I operate
always
this thing?
recommend people if they're going to start out in swim baits, get an S Waver 168. Before you buy a 6 inch draw that's 9 inches and almost 4 ounces, buy a S Waver 168. You can throw it on your big cranking rod or a flipping stick. It's got trebles. And I like a soft tip on anything with trebles, but go out there and see if it's for you. I did a video of Matt Robertson last year on a lake here by Kentucky Lake, Lake Bashirs, and he he caught him really good on that. And he said, "Dude, for the money, it's hard to beat, but you know, throw it out there. If you're over 15 foot of water, count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Count to 10. Uh, Anything over 10, I got to take my shoes off. But anyway, uh, just slow movements of the rod. And here's how Matt told me to fish: is slow movements of the reel. I'm sorry. And then about every fifth reel, he just kind of does a little twitch of
Yeah.
the rod and then
Yeah.
pauses. Go.
Yeah.
And he says some days they hit it on the pause, some days they hit it when it's reeling. He said, he said, what I've learned from live scope isn't just there's a fish, catch it. It's how I can get my cadence to, all right, they're
Yeah.
wanting
To
a
trigger it.
quick,
Trigger the bite.
chops to the reel, or they're wanting it really barely moved. You can see fish react. He said, but that's a good way. He said, if I'm fishing a swim bait, I want to learn in clear water because I want to know what that bait's doing, whether it's at the top of the water or the bottom of the water column. Makes a difference too. They swim a whole lot different as deeper they sink versus, up toward the surface.
No doubt. And you trigger another thought. When we had Jacob Wheeler on the show, we asked him about these electronics and the forward facing sonar and all this stuff. And he said, one thing that he said that has really stuck with me is he said, I have learned more about bass behavior since I started using that forward facing sonar than I ever could even imagine. And I think that's one of the kind of bonus benefits of all of this electronics out there. I mean, they're freaking arm and a leg, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I'll
But
have to work some overtime and get a boat. And first thing I'll buy, I actually believe I would rather have forward facing sonar than power poles,
yeah, I think
maybe even over spotlight.
yeah, I definitely would have Spotlock first and foremost. To tell you the truth, I love Spotlock. It spoils you, man. It just spoils you like you wouldn't believe. But I think I would take forward facing sonar over power poles for sure.
Yeah, now where I live, I fish off the bank so much that power poles they're nice for docking your bank. In that 2 weeks, there is a flipping bite, but
No
you know
doubt.
what? Being in a boat with some of the pros, though, they use them a whole lot more than I feel like I would
They
use them.
do.
Not saying that they just know they're automatic with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
catch a fish and they're in less than 8 foot of water. It's the pole's down before they're fighting the fish. Almost,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I'll tell you too. I've been amazed at how good power pole technical support is.
Dude, they are the best in the business.
They're amazing. They are so helpful, and I've got those on my boat, and then I've got one of those micros on my kayak. And
Hmm.
dude, it's just unbelievable the few times I've had to contact them how they're on it. They do not ask me, well, are you a real customer, or you haven't spent $100,000 with us, so sorry. I mean, they don't care. You're a customer. We're going to help you out.
Dude, that
And
the companies like that always tend to thrive, and that's one reason I like to be associated with 6 Cents. They don't care, and I've seen a text from uh, Casey there. Hey, we don't care if a guy spent $500 a week or a guy spent $5 2 months ago. If he's got an issue, we want to address it and take care of it. And companies like that always tend to last in this business. I've sent baits back to Spro, had an issue before. They replaced the baits and sent me more. Strike King, that as companies want your feedback. The biggest tip I can give you is if you've got something wrong with your bait, Mega Bass, Strike King, the lips are breaking, they're swelling up because these new baits, a lot of people don't realize they're pressed together. That's why there's a seam.
Yeah.
And sometimes they get runs. They do not like exposure to heat, and then you put them in your box, and they're all hot in your boat. Then you break them out in cool weather, and then you put them back, and they get hot again. It's like concrete; they expand a little bit, contract, and those seams tend to split sometimes. You call these companies up. Do not, Randy. Don't go in there and just be like, "These gosh dang baits! I can't believe I spent all these money. I'm gonna, sue you guys, and I better get some free baits." Customer service is gonna go, "Whoa, you better slow your roll." But if you go, "Hey, here's what happened. I hadn't fished them. They were in my boat. I don't want to make this phone call, but just want to let you know where the problem. What's something I can do about it?" 90% of the time, they're going to say, "You know what? Take a picture, send it to us. Give me your address. You send them to us. We'll replace your baits." Dude, if I had to send some baits to Spro because they want to know, "Hey, what's happened? What happened to these baits?" We want to know because we've had a few people saying this.
Sure.
Chances are they're going to use it as a learning tool to double check QC. Maybe something's wrong at the factory. Maybe it was just they had a run of, "Hey man, all these baits made on from this date to that date, there's an issue. We got to get them out of the field." You never know.
Absolutely. And really, that stuff pays off because when I bought my power poles on my boat, I was trying to decide, do I want power poles or do I want talons? Power poles or talons? Power poles or talons? I went with the power poles. And now that I've had these encounters with them over the years, I will never buy a talon. And it's not because I think bad of the product at all, but I'm so happy with power pole. I would never try another product. There is no way I will, even if it's a fantastic product, and it might be. I don't know. I've never had talents, but that stuff really pays off, man. I'm glad that. I'm glad.
Yeah.
What
Damn
was that?
neighbors. My freaking neighbor's dog come up in the bait room, and I just happened to look, and the dude was just sitting there staring at me, and I scared him. Scared me. I think he was looking at that Buka glide I got behind me. He's thinking, "Man, should I eat this?" I'm glad he didn't.
So this is interesting. Mr. Gambit 2000 says, "Stop throwing on braid," and I think he may be talking about swim baits. But
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about braid on like a bait caster? Do you throw many? Do you
You
throw
know, I'm
braid
gonna.
much?
I used to be an anti-braid guy. Same thought, and probably in
Me
the
too.
last 6 months, dude, I throw an A rig on braid, and I threw in that Clearwater OH Ivy, and I got some theories on braid. It works. And one thing
Uh-huh.
I like about throwing on a rig, because I usually use lighter wire hooks. When you're fishing those deep brush piles and stuff, and you got a $25 hog farmer rig on there, and you get hung up, 65-pound braid, you can straighten the hooks out and get your rig back.
Yeah.
Mono fluorocarbon, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Uh, I think what happens is guys really underrate the poundage braid or overrate the poundage. So they're like, "Oh, well, I got 40-pound braid. That's fine to throw this, 3-ounce swim bait." Man, go as heavy as you can. Like I like 65, 85-pound braid. I've got this. I've been. Oh my dang rod stuck. I got this is the Buka Shad Glide right here.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, that's an 8-inch glide bait, and
Yeah.
I've got 65-pound sunline on it. I've not had any issues. The bigger diameter on braid, you got to go because the small diameter tends to uh, uh, overrun, and when it does, it has no stretch. So when it stops, and you got to
Yeah.
keep your thumb on the spool.
Mhm.
There's no shock, and what happens is a lot of times it snaps right there at your knot, and then your bait goes flying.
Are
A lot of guys try to cast like KVD with these big baits and stuff, and it's a lob for me. It's a controlled cast. Now, obviously, mono. doesn't have as much stretch. It can bend. It kind of rubber bands a little bit. But I like the fact that braid has no stretch on these bigger baits, even though they're treble hook baits. Um, I've been using it more and more now.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, Mr. Bass, I really feel like it's personal preference. You got to go out there and
Yeah.
you got to play. If I'm fishing a lot of rocky stuff, if I'm fishing more shallow water, like a swim bait or whatever, even around cover, I'm tending to go to more mono or fluorocarbon line because rock cuts braid pretty bad next to the line. But if I'm just fishing out open flat or I'm fishing over the top of grass or just out of offshore, I have no issue with braid.
Are you tying your braid directly on your bait?
Mm-hmm.
You're not using a leader?
No, not right now. Not
Oh,
right now. That's
interesting.
direct. Now, I
Interesting.
have used a leader at times. I've been pretty lazy lately. I haven't. I hate tying leaders. Just like my least favorite thing. Don't ask me to tie FG, Alberto, or any of that stuff. I'm lost. I use a
Yeah,
knot
those,
called RP knot. It's the Royal Polaris knot that I found. It's a really good knot.
really interesting. Well, I have gone through the pain of learning the FG knot, and it was a painful process. It's not that difficult once you get the hang of it, man, but that learning curve, phew, it's kind of brutal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sean Lai asked a good question. What's a heavier swim bait rod that won't break the bank? Man, Dobbins Fury 796, or
yeah,
you get the Dobbins 806 Fury. It's like $120, man. Pound for pound, it's probably one of the best swim bait rods out there on a
I
budget.
agree.
That Milliken swim bait rod, dude, it works, man. I broke it in Texas, and I like throwing the glides on it. It has a nice tip on it. It's pretty soft. You can throw a big spoon on it, stuff like that. That's probably my two favorites in that price range. I like Dobbins rods. They got a cult following, but
I do too.
it's just hard to beat that the quality you're getting for $120 right there. So
Yeah, for sure. There are some other good companies that have some decent rods. I think the best, what I would do is just kind of poke around the forums and,
hmm
you know,
sometimes you can find some of the older Loomis IMX swim bait rods for less than $200, and they're really really good. They're a little heavier,
yeah,
and they of course they got cork on them instead of EVA foam and whatnot, but
yeah.
they're really good rods.
I use a lot of the IMX rods myself. Uh, so yeah, that's interesting stuff for sure.
We went down
Um,
so many rabbit holes tonight. We actually had like two topics we're going to talk about, and we're an hour and 42 minutes.
I know we've gone through a lot of rabbit holes. That's okay. It's all good. It's all good. The I don't know if I want to even bring this up. I might just skip this and just kind of. One thing we were going to talk about a little bit because we were kind of first we were going to do old versus new, and then we kind of thought talked about maybe doing the evolution of lures and uh, the one interesting thing to me is that the spook, the plug,
hmm
it really hasn't changed much from its earliest days, has it?
No, no,
Uh,
especially for the head version. They got
yeah,
the one off spook, chugging spook, but really the body's all the same.
yeah. That and I mean maybe if it's not broke, don't fix it. But here's a head and Zara spook. Look at these
Yeah,
old hooks on there. I mean this sucker. These are probably original. Uh, this
you know
is
they had the
old.
old ones that they call the sway back, and they used to go for big money on eBay. They just had a little bend in the back. You got one of them?
No, I don't.
I don't either. Don't feel bad.
But I was just going to show you. Here's a brand new head and one knocker today
hmm
compared to
Yeah, there's
old school head and Zara spook.
they
And
basically made it more of a high definition version, as I like to say.
yeah, I mean, they just haven't done much to it. And guess what? You can take this sucker out and catch fish all day, every day on it. I mean, it's really interesting. Now, what's your opinion about two hooks versus three hooks on a spook?
Anytime I can get away with 3 treble hooks, that's what I'm going for. That's why I like that big super spook. It's got 3 hooks on it. I've caught plenty of fish on a regular spook. Don't get me wrong, but I've missed a lot of swiping fish. I feel like because of those 2 hooks. It's now you get in that small super spook junior range. I think the bait's small enough where a bass
Yeah.
can usually grab it. But I
Yeah.
like 3 hooks, man.
I got one of the Zell Rollins that has the 3.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's it, baby, right there. That's a
Look
good
at
one.
that. That's a beautiful bait. I haven't fished it yet. I got it a few months ago. Got
That's where
Zell.
I like to throw in them flea markets and tackle swaps, and that's a bait I look for a lot.
Yeah, dude. Zell swore by this bait with the 3 hooks. That was his deal.
Yep.
And that's a nice color too. You talk
Yeah,
about
that
color.
baby bass catches them. You know, it's mostly a
Yeah.
white belly, but
Yeah. Here's an
he's
old
got
school.
another color I got to get.
Here's
Get
another old school one. This bullfrog color, also still good today.
Yeah.
But this color here, there's something about it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's so bright yellow.
Yep. I
But there's
think
certain,
when we go back to color, those overcast days,
yeah,
especially around smallmouth
yeah,
or up north where there's a lot of perch, I think that yellow really plays.
yeah. I do too. But everybody's got a spook now. You know, everybody's got whatever they call it. You got the old Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows the Sammy, shaped a little different, but you got the Berkeley, the Jaywalker.
For that's a good one. I haven't thrown the Jaywalker, but I've heard a lot of guys like that bait.
Yeah, it's got a lice, and it's got kind of a pointed back. I don't know if you can see
Mm-hmm.
it, but it comes to a point there. I
It's
like
kind
this
of
matte.
a.
What do you think of this matte color? This is a
I
matte
like
finish.
matte finishes. I really do.
Yeah,
I like matte finishes.
yeah.
It just
I do
takes
too.
the. It takes the. Sometimes it takes the flash away, and I think sometimes being subtle is a good thing. You know. I'm just talking about lipless and squarebills, and you want that flash, but it's a different. It's a different. It mutes it. You know.
Do you tie direct to your bait, or do you like a split ring
Here's
on your
my
spook?
answer. And
This
this
is an
sounds
evergreen.
PC, but I feel for the most part, if a manufacturer puts a split ring on it, it was meant for a split ring. If they
Okay.
don't, it was meant not to use. Now there are a few exceptions. I don't like to tie a loop knot that I'll put a split ring on, but
Yeah.
sometimes
Uh,
if I want a popping bait to have more freedom in the movement, I feel like I put a split ring on it.
Now you're a Sixth Sense guys. They got some pretty good spook type baits. This one
Yeah,
here looks great. I
Mag
just got
Dog, that's
this.
a good one.
It's
That's
got
a
a
really
big
good guy.
knocker in it. Look
Yep.
at how big these hooks are, man.
Yeah, you're going for
Giant,
Mondos with that thing.
giant hooks on this thing. And this is a nice color too. It's very,
Mm-hmm.
very
Yo,
subtle.
Spanish bone.
How about this? Have you ever thrown this?
Yes, the Boeing lure. So I did a video. One of the first videos I ever did on my channel was a Boeing lure product review. Those were actually originally made here in Benton, Kentucky by a guy named Jeff Thompson. He was taking a Zara spook, and he was actually taking a Dremel tool and cutting it in half. He was
Ah,
adding a piano wire and a split shot in there, and then he would
ah,
epoxy it back up. And my buddy that passed away a few months ago, Mr. Jeff Evans, was the first guy I ever seen using it, and dude, it was awesome. So it all started here in Benton, and then he got with Tim Hughes to make the newer version of the Boeing,
uh-huh.
and eventually they sold out to the guy that owns it now. It's actually a really good topwater bait. It
Yeah, the boing. It's got a spring like.
mm-hmm.
Listening to it almost doesn't do it justice. You got
If
to
you do
have
it
it in
just
your
right,
hand.
it sounds like a water dropping. You know, boing.
Yeah, you got to feel. You got to feel it in your hand to know what it does. I mean, but this is the kind of their bass color, baby bass color. It's a good color. Um, what about this one? Have you ever thrown this one here?
Ooh, I like that.
This is
That is,
Japanese.
I'm going to say, is that a some lures,
It's the
or is that the
Ichabod.
Ichiban? Yeah,
Ichabod.
yeah.
This has no noise. It is a super subtle topwater plug. It's one of the most subtle there is. And man, some days it's lights out, man. It really is. If you're looking for a finesse topwater, that's the bait right there. That thing is. Here's another tried and true one.
Ooh, sexy dog.
Dude, man, the sexy dog just flat out slays them, doesn't it?
One of the best bang for your buck topwater lures right there.
For sure. And it's got 3 hooks
Three
on it.
hooks. Dude, you
3
need to
hooks.
try the new one knock sexy dog. I really like it. Really like it.
I don't have any of those, but I think it's interesting though when you talk about the way some lures just seem to evolve, so many iterations, but it seems like the plug, the spook, just hasn't changed. It doesn't need to change, and guys copy it. Maybe they'll change the shape of the mouth or the cup, or something like that. But for the most part, man,
Right. I'm going to have to get off here in just a few minutes, Mr. Bass, but we've got some great comments here. We've
yeah,
got
cool.
multiple people saying this is the shiznet. Mr. Bass is just as addicted as you and me, Baitman. We got to do this again, dude. I'm absolutely down for it. And I apologize, Mr. Bass. He asked me I want to think a month or so ago, and I had something come up at the last minute. I had to bail on him, and I apologize. And get your fish on. I've been watching his stuff. He's really good at breaking down baits, and I didn't realize he used to be on a Florida radio show and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
I'm all about talking tackle and fishing and stuff like that. That's my wheelhouse, and I appreciate
absolutely.
you reaching back out to me. Give me a little second chance here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you getting together with me, man. It was really fun. I know you got to go to work, so we need to wrap up.
Yeah, I got
But
to go make some money so I can spend it on more baits, I guess.
exactly, dude, you got your priorities straight. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, as
Um,
long as I made a joke with my wife one time. I said, "Well, if worst come to worst, I've got a pretty good backup plan." She said, "What?" I said, "You seen all them baits out there? You don't think I couldn't make the rent?" Back in the day, I said I could make it real quick. I've never so, I get every now and then I want some play money. I'm like, well, I'll sell this thing off or this right here. But that's this is all Bait Junior's college fund, probably.
you're not kidding. I keep telling my wife, listen, honey, these swim baits are an investment. They are going to
Yes,
pay off. They're going to pay off. Don't worry. It's all good money. It's putting good money after good.
Bait Junior has Pokemon cards, and I have Balsa crankbaits. So.
Hey, hit that like button, guys, if you would. I'd really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
and make sure if you guys aren't subscribed, the ones that are watching this on my channel, if you're not subscribed to Mr. Bass, go give him a sub button. He makes really good content. He's very passionate about fishing. He works with several companies, support him and whatnot. And if you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button. I've got the new membership thing going on. We're doing a giveaway next week. Anybody that's a member of the channel going to have his chance at a $50 tackle pack. Anyone's the jank level or above, we're going to give away $100 a tackle. We're going to pick it right off the bait wall here. Mr. Bass does a lot of giveaways too. He is kind of the giveaway king these days. He's got the spinning wheel.
Yeah.
Uh, he does it right.
I got my spin to win wheel here, and we have fun with this thing.
What's up, Axeman 24? Hey, if any of my Tennessee Vols guys are up in the stream tonight, one of my good buddies in East Tennessee, his name's I just call him the Axeman. He started him a Tennessee football YouTube, and I'm going to try to help him out on that. He's a great dude, one of the smartest people I've ever been around in my life.
That
But
sounds fun.
he's also very opinionated on college football. So if you want some laughs and some picks, man, he dissects these games. He just started up.
Do you
Go
watch a
give the Axeman a sub. He needs 1,000 subs. So
heck yeah? Do you watch SEC shorts?
yes,
Those are freaking hilarious, man. They are so good. I just put my cover or whatever you call this for our show, my Get Your Fish On and Mr. Bass show every Wednesday night. So tomorrow night, if you're not doing anything, hop on and join
hey,
us, guys.
I'm going to be editing a TV show. I got to get done. I got to get the show done before I go to Mark's wedding Saturday. So I won't be streaming Saturday night. So I'll come in and watch. I won't be able to participate very much, but
Right on, right on.
we'll do it again.
thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and hope you guys have a great week. Hope you get some fishing in, and until next time, have a great one. And
Yep. Thank you, guys.
thanks, Kevin.